Today is September 13th, 2025. I actually want to take you to another September 13th, 1900. A hill with red soil on the island of Marinduque in the Philippines, Pulang Lupa. Filipino fighters led by Colonel Máximo Abad surrounded and defeated a U.S. unit commanded by Captain Devereux Shields. It was a shocking loss for the U.S., which was trying to tighten its control over the Philippines after defeating Spain. The battle embarrassed Washington during President William McKinley's reelection campaign and pushed the U.S. military to use brutal tactics against Filipino civilians. Today I'll tell you the story of Pulang Lupa, what happened next, and why it feels familiar as we watch the war in Gaza unfold. At the time, Filipinos were fighting for their independence. They'd hoped to be free after Spain's defeat, but the U.S. decided to rule the islands as a colony. On September 13, 1900, Abad's men with rifles and machetes called bolos ambushed Shields' small force of about 50 soldiers. After hours of fighting, Shields was wounded and his men surrendered. This Filipino victory embarrassed the U.S. military. General Arthur MacArthur responded by punishing civilians, arresting almost all men over 15 years old, burning crops and homes, and forcing people into concentration camps. The goal was to break resistance by making life impossible. By April 1901, Abad surrendered, but Filipino civilians, paid a heavy price. The U.S. Senate later held hearings on war crimes in the Philippines, including torture and forced relocation. These events taught us some hard lessons. Like when armies treat civilians like enemies, wars become much more brutal. Like destroying food, homes, and villages may bring short-term control, but it fuels anger for generations. Like governments often double down on violence when they feel embarrassed or politically pressured. These lessons aren't just history. They help us understand what's happening in Gaza today. After Hamas's horrific attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, Israel launched one of the deadliest military campaigns in modern history. The Israeli government says its goal is to destroy Hamas, but many human rights groups and even the International Court of Justice warn that some of Israel's actions may amount to genocide or crimes against humanity. Here's where the echoes of Pulang Lupa come in. Targeting civilians to pressure fighters. In the Philippines, U.S. troops burned villages and destroyed food to starve resistance. In Gaza, bombings, blockades, and forced displacement have left millions homeless with basic needs cut off. Starvation as a weapon. Then and now, civilians are suffering most. In Gaza, the ICJ has ordered Israel to allow aid to flow and warned that starvation is being used as a tool of war. Israel said no. Politics driving violence. The U.S. escalated its brutality in the Philippines partly to avoid embarrassment. In Israel, political leaders have tied their survival to crushing Gaza even as civilian deaths mount. The wars are not identical. Hamas is a real threat. Gaza is densely populated, and Israel is responding to a massacre. But the pattern is familiar. When leaders see civilians as leverage, humanitarian law is pushed aside. During the Philippine-American War, the U.S. was both occupier and decision maker. Today, the U.S. is Israel's largest backer, giving billions in military aid and using its veto power at the United Nations to block resolutions criticizing Israel. That makes America deeply involved in what is happening in Gaza. The lesson from Pulang Lupa is clear. U.S. choices shape wars, for better or worse. Back then, we used that power to oppress, crush another nation. Today, we risk repeating that mistake by funding and defending a war that has devastated a civilian population. The word genocide is powerful, but it's not thrown around lightly. The International Court of Justice hasn't made a final ruling, but it has already said there is a plausible risk of genocide in Gaza and ordered Israel and all nations, including the U.S., to prevent it. That means Washington has a legal and moral duty to rethink its support if that support fuels mass suffering. Civilians must never be treated as bargaining chips. Accountability is essential. Ignoring war crimes in the Philippines didn't erase the damage, it only buried it. U.S. foreign policy choices are not neutral. We are shaping this war in Gaza every single day. Justice isn't vengeance. Hamas's crimes do not justify punishing 2 million Palestinians. Pulang Lupa was a small battle with a big shadow. It showed how quickly a democracy can embrace brutality when leaders feel threatened. That shadow stretches to Gaza, where we see the same logic at work. Punish the people to break their will. History is not just a story we tell. It is a mirror. And right now, that mirror is showing us something we don't want to see. Thanks for listening. If this moved you, share it. Read more about the Philippine-American War and stay informed about what's happening in Gaza. These connections matter because lives, past and present, deserve the truth.